Hey guys, and welcome to Birth and Belief. We're your hosts, two moms and labor and delivery nurses, walking through the beauty, chaos, and everything in between when it comes to birth and motherhood.
We'll share real stories, practical insight, a lot of laughs, and the moments that remind us we're never doing this alone. So whether you're a mom-to-be, or just someone needing a little encouragement, we're so glad you're here. This is Birth and Belief, where every story matters and every moment points back to Him. Okay, so my story is a little bit different than yours. I did not grow up in a faith-based home. My family were like good people. I feel like a lot of people like growing up were always like shocked to find out that my parents weren't believers, just because I think a lot of the values and things that we grew up with are really similar to like Christian values and things like that. But faith, church, Jesus was not a part of life growing up. My parents were always very like supportive and open to letting us kind of like navigate and find our own path. My mom would always be like supportive of whatever you choose, whatever you do. So for me, I had some friends growing up in like elementary school that their families would go to church. And so I would go to church kind of sporadically growing up, just because I had friends that was what their families did, and I was at their house.
Did you ever see like that you'd want that? Like you wanted what they, like, did they ever seem different than your family, or did you ever, was it just like a nonchalant?
Yeah, I think
how they are.
I didn't realize, I think at that time, that it was Jesus that made their family like different.
Yeah.
I feel like their family was really similar to mine. It just, they went to church.
Yeah.
Because like my mom was a school counselor, and like, I don't know, she was just my mom's just a great person.
She's a rock.
And, like had really good values and things like that. So I never really like noticed the difference or like attributed that to their faith. I just knew I really liked going to church. I liked being around that environment. And so if I was there, I would choose to go.
Yeah.
When I was little, my dad struggled with alcoholism. And I remember when I was like 6, my mom gave my dad an ultimatum and was like, either get sober or leave. He would like, my mom tells us now, like, I think I just wasn't aware of it when I was little, but he would be home from work first and be with me and my sister, and she would come home from work and he'd be like passed out in bed, and we would just be like there. And things like, I have memories of him just like being out in the garage, and that was like his spot because he was hiding it from my mom, and he would go out to the garage and just like hide behind the trailer and drink. And my mom found like all these cans like stashed in the trailer, and I have like those memories, and at the time I didn't know. I mean, I was little.
How like protective your mom was.
Yeah, my mom definitely protected us from it.
Kept you from so much.
Yeah. I remember, so when I was 6, my dad went to AA because my mom gave him the an ultimatum, and he went to inpatient treatment. And I remember like the first time we went to go visit him, I remember leaving. I think I was like 6 or 7, and I remember just crying that we were leaving him there and being so mad at my mom, like blaming my mom, like, why are we leaving him here? And so that was it was just such a confusing, weird season as a kid, to go through that. And coming out of that, my dad was sober for 15, 16 years.
Wow, I don't think I realized it was that long.
Yeah, he was sober. So majority of my life was like stable, and he was sober. And that was like, AA was just like a part of our life. My dad would go to meetings like multiple times a week my whole life, and it was just, that was our normal. Was my dad going to AA meetings. And I didn't know anything different, and I knew that's what helped keep him sober. I knew that like it was a point of tension between my parents, because my dad was so focused on his sobriety that sometimes he forgot about like our family, you know. That was like more important to him, which, you know, do what you need to do. I know that was a hard struggle for him. But fast forward, when I was in high school, I got invited to Young Life. My sister who was 2 years older than me, was involved with Young Life stuff, and she would go to this thing called Campaigners, and she drug me along one week to Campaigners, which is like a small group that they would have on the weekends, and just dive a little bit more into like the Bible. I went to Campaigners, kind of got involved with Young Life, and then I think my sophomore year of high school, I went to this camp called Breakaway Lodge. It's at the coast, and that was the first time that I had ever heard the gospel shared plainly, where I had been to church and I'd heard about God and I heard about Jesus and I'd heard like Bible stories, but I'd never like heard the gospel. And, you know, being like, the God of the universe sent his son for our sin. Yeah. You know, we have this sin that like separates us from God, and Jesus came for that, and he died and he rose again so that we can be right with the Lord. And that was the first time that I had just heard it like spoken, so just like
black and white,
like this is the gospel. And I think that like because of my exposure to church and my exposure to these families that followed, like were faith-based and followed Jesus, I felt like I was like low-hanging fruit. Like I just heard it and I was like, yes, that is truth. Like I didn't need convincing. I didn't need like proof. I just like knew in my heart, like that is true. And so during Young Life camp, they have one of the nights they do like quiet time, and everybody kind of spreads out all over the camp and has this moment of like kind of reflection of what you've heard throughout the week. And I just remember going outside under this staircase and sitting there and choosing to give my life to the Lord. And I think like other than like going through AA with my dad, I hadn't really been through much hard stuff. And I think that like I was so little when I went through all that it didn't really like, I don't know if it really affected me anymore. It was just kind of like normal, you know? But I love Jesus, and I chose that I wanted to follow Jesus. And so I started going to a church. I started serving in Wildlife, which is like middle school Young Life. And so I was leading and I was pursuing Jesus and trying to figure out like what life looked like following Jesus. And went to college, got super involved in a Bible study group there, which is where, side note, I met our other best friend, Jill. We were not close then. We were kind of acquaintances then, but it was kind of a little touch point. But I got super involved in this Bible study. It was kind of like a young adults college group. Was helping with worship team and super plugged in there. And then my sophomore year of college, my sister was graduating, and I remember being at her graduation party at our house, and I was like, why is everybody being so weird? And I was trying to be like the peacekeeper. Like my mom's family was inside, my dad's family was outside, and I was like, what? I felt like I could just feel that people were being weird. And I'm like, what is going on? And then my mom and my sister and my aunt went upstairs, and my dad was like, don't go up there, don't go up there, don't go up there. And I was like, why can't I go up there? And I'm like, something is going on. And my dad's like, just come here. And I was like, okay. And he pulled me into our guest room, and he was like, Mom and I are getting a divorce. And I was like, wow, what? Like, that was like not anything on my radar of something that would ever happen to my family. Well,
especially because you've come so far the last 15 plus years.
I mean, there was no like issues that I knew about. I had known that my dad had gotten close to somebody through AA and was like talking to her, and like I knew the relationship made my mom kind of uncomfortable, and that she had spoken up about that. And but I didn't think my parents would ever get divorced. And I'm an adult, you know, I'm in my 20s. And so he tells me that, and I just like didn't know what to do. So I just left. And I left, and I called our area director for Young Life, and I was like, just went to their house and I just cried on their couch. And I was like, and I just stayed there till I felt like I could drive home, because I lived 20 minutes away or 30 minutes away. And so that season was so hard for me. I think like for you with your mom, like for me, that was like the first like season of my life where I felt like the rug was like pulled out from under me, and like my world was like falling apart. In a sense, like I didn't know what to do. And for a season I was just like, you know what, was mad at God, and I was like, why would you do this? And I wouldn't say that I like threw my faith away, but I was just like trying to like fill the void with like earthly things and like drinking and, you know, hang out with friends and just like not seeking Jesus. And honestly, that season probably only lasted a couple weeks.
I was like, it's not like you.
It was very short-lived because I think God just like, I specifically remember like one night laying in bed and God just being like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, and just having this sense of like, I have two options right now. I can either like pursue Jesus, or I can, and like use this season to recognize my need for him and draw close to him, or I can use this season to just throw it all away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just decided like, I have no other choice. Like I am going to pursue Jesus because I need him. Like I've ever needed him before. And I think through that season, like God provided for me like people who stepped in like a fatherly figure role, and he provided community around me who supported me and loved me and pointed me to truth. Because there was a lot of things where like I felt like my dad chose to leave, and he just didn't fight for us. Like I was really mad at him, and I would take a lot of my anger out on him, and he just was like, well, if you're gonna be mad, then, and he would just like throw his hands up and like, you're gonna be mad. And like I said, my mom's a school counselor. She's like, you're gonna be mad, we're gonna talk about it. And my mom was like, dug her heels and was like, no, you can be mad at me, you can be mad about the situation, but like we're gonna get through this. And I remember one night just going like, so I lived like 2 minutes away from my dad when my parents were getting divorced. And I remember one night just showing up on his doorstep and just yelling at him like, why aren't you fighting for your family? And he just was like, don't do this, don't do, you know. Anyways.
Through that, could you feel like you're losing, quote unquote, one father, and like our Heavenly Father like coming in and sweeping you up and picking you up? Or was it like still something that you not had to convince yourself with, but like almost fight for that, I still have this fatherly figure of the Lord?
I think that I didn't know that on my own.
Okay.
I had a really close friend at the time. Like I remember like telling her these things like, why is my dad not fighting for me? Why is he not wanting our family to be together? And she reminded me like you can't hold your dad to the standards of what you feel like you deserve as a daughter, because he is not in a place to give that to you. And like he doesn't know Jesus in the way that you do. And all those things that you feel like you deserve as a daughter, like God can fill those things for you. And so I think I needed those people in my life to like tell me those things.
Because at this time you're still very involved with Young Life, correct? Okay.
Yep. I had to go to summer camp like 2 weeks after I found this out.
And lead.
Wow. Yep. And then, but I just had like people in my life that continued to point me back to Jesus and remind me of truth. So I walked through this season and I remember like journaling all the time, like, God, when is this going to get better? When am I going to stop hurting? And it was like 2+ years of this like turmoil. And in that season, like my dad started drinking again. My dad started smoking and using drugs, and just became really toxic. And the lady that he had been talking to, he ended up marrying her, and she was also using, and it was just a really toxic scenario. And so I ended up putting up a boundary with my dad and just like, you cannot be a part of my life when you are living like this.
With this, do you feel like, at what point did you become closer with your mom and sister?
I think just through this all, like, because my mom could have the hard conversations, we were able to get through it. And like, whereas my dad would be like, oh, you're mad at me that I'm not going to talk to you. And I'm like, I had way more mad conversations with mom than I ever had with you. She was just willing to have them. And you are not.
She didn't want to lose you.
Which it is of note that, oh gosh.
I know, I'm freaking crying. That's great.
Why am I crying? I've told this story 600 times.
Because it's still there. It's who you are.
My mom's dad did the same thing to her mom.
Wow. I did not know that.
when my mom was like 18, she caught her dad cheating. Wow. And he just like peaced out. Like I never knew my mom's dad. And my mom had this like resentment towards men, and she had said she would never get married, and then she like trusted my dad.
Mm-hmm. Only to be then hurt this way. Wow. Yeah, I did not know that.
So that was really hard. So over the course of those 2 years where I was like battling, there was a 2-year season where I just told myself like, you are not dating, like you are not in a place to like enter into a relationship. I was super insecure, like, and I just needed to find my identity and who God had created me to be. And so
Absolutely.
I just like put my head down, and that was like what I focused on. And like 2 years after I found out my parents were getting divorced and walking through that, I met my husband, my now husband. And he was the first person I dated post, you know, going through all this. And I remember, well, one, I was just about to start nursing school when I met him. It was like a week before I started nursing school. So I was doing an accelerated nursing program, and nursing school is hard enough, but when you condense it down to 1 year, it was a doozy, and he was so patient with me. But I just remember him, like, I was always so scared to like, one, have hard conversations because I felt like he would leave and like not want to choose me if I was difficult.
Been the role model that you've lived with.
Yeah. And, I just was like super insecure, you know, all the time. And he would just say to me like, your dad didn't know Jesus. I know Jesus. And I, you know, somebody who doesn't know Jesus can't love like the Lord. And, we both knew like a week into dating, we both like we didn't tell each other, but we both told our best friends at the time, like, I think I just met my spouse. I met my husband, and he told I met my wife. And, we didn't say that to each other, but, like 2 weeks into dating, we said, I love you. And I had never said that to anybody before. That was something that I had like saved. He told me while we were dating, I like wanted to get married so bad. And he had told me, you know, finish nursing school. When you finish nursing school, we'll get married. And our season, we always tell people that our season of like pre-engagement was our hardest season of dating, because we would fight so much over like the timing of things, because he would say like, you know, not yet, like this is the last secret I get to keep from you. Let me keep this secret from you. And like, let me guide, like, you know. And so I had to trust him. And I said it in our vows, which I recently reread our vows because we just celebrated our 10-year wedding anniversary. But I said, like, I remember God speaking to me and asking me why I trust Jonathan. And like in one of those moments where I was like so frustrated, and he like just reminded me, like, I trust him because I trust the one who he follows. And I trust him to lead us and our family. And so, which is not something that like was modeled for me.
I know, I'm like, that's so special because you never saw that.
And his family is just so solid, and like that was what he had modeled was that. And so getting to finally get engaged, get married, and then we entered into a season really quickly into our marriage of in sickness and in health. Jonathan had a chronic illness since before we met, but it had been in control with medication. And then like 2 months into our marriage, the medicine just stopped working, and he was super sick and like got down to like 127 pounds, like super skinny and super malnourished. He was, you know, he would just be in bed. There would be times that he would like overexert himself, and then he would like have like flu-like symptoms, but not the flu. He was just, his body just couldn't. And through that season, like we had 2 babies, like, and he's super sick. I remember like the first 2 years of our daughter's life, he couldn't even like take her anywhere by himself because he was so sick that if something happened, he couldn't be responsible for her. And then when I was pregnant with our son Judah, we went and saw his doctor and finally got a referral to a surgeon. And he finally got surgery to have his colon removed when Judah was 3 months old. So that was like such a crazy season. I remember like people being like, how did you get through that season? I was like,
I was going to say,
just so much help.
Like literally living through that with you.
Yeah.
From the outside, like you guys, I mean, I knew it was hard, but you guys never showed that things were hard. Like, and that like honestly, like I feel like with the community that you have and just the reliance on the Lord, like you stood so strong through that whole entire journey. Like your faith never wavered at all. Like I'm sure there were hard times.
I think we were very, very, very blessed during that season. Like, I think we both would say, like, it was definitely a season of survival and not, like, we were not thriving during that season, but we had a lot of help. Like, we had, like, a schedule of, like, rotating people when I had to go back to work, whereas, like, his mom would come. He has a bunch of siblings. His sisters took turns coming. His brothers stayed with him at the hospital so I could come home and be with kids. My mom and my sister were here and taking shifts and helping. And like, I remember there was one night where Penny was having a hard time and the baby was crying and wouldn't go to sleep. And my husband is sick in bed post-surgery. And I was like, I can't do it all. And I just called my mom and she was here, you know, the drop of the hat, and helped me with the 2-year-old so I could be at the baby. And we were just surrounded by people who lifted us up during that season. And so his surgeries was a course of 4 surgeries over a year. 3 of them required him to stay at the hospital. The second surgery, though, they had a surgical error that almost killed him. And he was readmitted to the hospital twice after that. And it was really scary. But
even then, like,
even then,
the way that you spoke of that and the way that like Jonathan walked through that, you would have thought that you would have thought that it wasn't to the extent of what it was. Like, you guys both were just so at peace with something that was so tragic.
Yeah. I remember sitting in the hospital room and talking with Jonathan, and his dad had his parents came. They live in Washington, and they came for every surgery. They were here, and I remember his dad asked him after the surgical complication when he was like super painful and not doing well. He just asked him like, "How's your soul?" And I remember Jonathan said something to the effect of like, "If the only purpose of this is that it draws me closer to Jesus, that's okay." And that was for our family, you know. And
dang it.
I don't feel like this affects me anymore, but apparently it does. Let's see, my notes, I've forgotten everything I'm going to say. So I think like you said, like it seemed from the outside like we just handled it.
And really fast, when you said that Jonathan's dad asked, like, how's your soul? You've said that multiple times too to me. Like, he's really good at asking that, which I feel like is so important, to be able to have someone that honestly just asks like raw questions. Like, okay, you might look good, but really, how is your soul? And you've said that multiple times. I've always admired that
it's such a good
he was
question.
one to, to just like, okay, but really, like, you need to tell me how. Like, and I thought that was so special that you have that figure that you know, that maybe you've been missing in a sense, that is willing to ask you those questions. But I've always, that was just a side note that I've always admired, like,
well, and
you
just
pointed
like
that out,
to be present too. Like during the surgeries, like his mom would stay with me and help with the kids, and my mom would have the kids at home, or my daughter, I would take the baby with me. But Debbie was at the hospital Jonathan's mom pushing Judah around laps while I was with Jonathan, and my mom and my sister were here with Penny since she was a toddler and it was too much to bring her there. And there was one night that Debbie and I were coming back so I could put the kids to bed, and Jonathan wasn't doing well. He was very painful, and his dad was like, "I'm not leaving," and he sat in the room and just prayed. And that, you know, we just needed those people in our life. But it was like, I think during that season, we both would say like it was so hard, but we just had this peace that didn't make sense for our circumstances. And we both knew like, we'll get to the other side of this. And we kept saying like, long-term health is the goal, like long-term health. And
we had prayed for healing for him. Like, I remember being at summer camps and like he'd be anointed with oil, and like we're praying over him and praying for healing, and we're like, maybe these surgeries are what God is using to heal him.
Absolutely.
And now, like, being on the other side of it and like knowing how God carried us through that season, I think that we just have this like solid foundation and like unwavering knowing that like God will carry us through ever.
Yeah.
And like we've been walking through this season recently where my husband's between jobs, and that's been, you know, it's stressful. Finances are stressful, but I think we both we just have peace. Like, we know God will carry us through, and we know that like he's already shown up for us in ways that like we didn't expect.
Yeah.
And so now, like, you know, our life is, he's healthy. He's had zero complications since surgeries. There's risks that come with not having a colon, and he's had no complications post. And we're doing ministry together again, which when our kids were little, I had to step back from ministry, which was something that was like super important to me. And so we get to do ministry together, and we're raising our babies, and it's wild to think back on that season and be like, well, that was our life. Like, I forget, like, God has just like, I don't know if he's protected my mind or just like I forget about what
you went
life
through.
used to be like, and just we have this new normalcy. And but yeah, no,
it's been so fun to watch how the Lord
life
has worked in your life. And I mean, I haven't even known you through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But big moments. And
yeah,
I mean, you're a role model to many, and also myself. Like, it's been a joy to watch you be a wife and a mom and a best friend.
Sweet. And we get to work together.
Sister, and
get to be a nurse, which is great.
Yeah.
I love, like, when Jonathan and I were first talking, I remember like saying to him like the things that were important to me. Like, I wanted to be a mom, I wanted to do ministry, and I wanted to be a labor and delivery nurse. Those were like what I wanted. Like, those are my dreams for my life. That was the desires of my heart. And like, to be in this season now where, you know, I'm a mom, I'm doing ministry,
all the things.
Yeah, it just is pretty sweet to see, like, you know, maybe not the conventional path that I thought that would have chosen for myself, but just the path that the Lord took me on to get me here and get our family here. And it's pretty sweet.
Yeah. You're such a strong woman of faith. And I think without the curves and bumps and bruises that you went through, you wouldn't be here how you are today.
Yeah. Well, I think about, like, I mean, like we said it about your mom, like, it's sometimes, not always, but it's like the hard things that teach us to rely on Jesus. And just because you haven't gone through something hard doesn't mean you can't know how to rely on Jesus.
Right.
But like, for me, like, it took that for me to, like, God's like, yo, I'm over here.
Yeah.
Like, you need me. Like, I'm not just this accessory to your life that is pretty
Right.
neat. Like, you need me.
Yeah.
And I think I learned that, you know, over the course of time. And like
even now, like,
Yeah.
you're not in the
Yeah.
easiest time. I feel like you're still learning and being so faithful.
He just gives this like peace that doesn't, you know, just like life can feel chaotic, but we just have peace and we have joy. We're able to have joy despite circumstances. And just so thankful for that. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I love you.
Love you too. Thanks for being a part of my community.
Wouldn't have it any other way, baby.